Hi, I'm in Little Falls, Minnesota at Linden Hill Historical Site along the Mississippi River, and I am at a writer's retreat in conjunction with the Mississippi River Reader's Retreat, and I'm excited to bring you some interviews from those writers. Welcome, and today we have author Carmen Schober with us. Carmen, I am so excited to talk to you. Tell us about your books.
Thank you so much, Raina. I'm excited to be here. Yes, my name is Carmen Schober, and I have 2 contemporary romances published with Bethany House. And my first book was called After She Falls. And After She Falls is about a young woman who had dreams of becoming a professional mixed martial artist, but she falls for the wrong guy, and that ends up derailing her dream, her life. They do have a child together. They're married, they have a child together. So the book begins with her having to leave the marriage. It's a domestic abuse situation. And she flees with her daughter back to her hometown of Sparta, Pennsylvania, which is a fictional place, but Sparta, it kind of makes sense. There's a lot of fighting themes throughout the book, and she rebuilds her life and her fighting career there. And because it is a contemporary romance, she reconnects with a former, he's a friend, he's a training partner, he's a little more than a friend, this whole kind of complicated dynamic. She returns back to that.
Did you mention that MMA is a part of it?
Yes, she's a mixed martial artist.
Okay.
So an important thing to know about that particular book, my debut, is that it was a very light sort of homage to Rocky. So the classic Rocky movie with Sylvester Stallone, I took that and I reimagined it for 2023, or it's 2023 now. When I wrote it, it was like 2019, but you get it. Contemporary times, female protagonist, mixed martial arts instead of boxing, but still very much in like the same spirit of that classic underdog story.
Well, and I really enjoyed talking with you off camera about Rocky and how you
Yes.
got to like that movie. Are you willing to share
Absolutely.
that a little bit?
Yes. So I'm a huge Sylvester Stallone fan. Maybe he'll watch this. I don't know. Stallone, I'm your biggest fan.
That was a terrible impersonation.
Well,
by the way.
nobody could do it. Nobody could do it quite like him. So how I came to love Sylvester Stallone is my whole life, my first ever published piece is a short essay is about this. My whole life, I was a quitter. I quit everything. Like, I quit piano, I quit singing, I quit soccer, I quit basketball. It was
Are you talking like your youth?
Yes, my youth. Yes, like this is like my childhood, I should say, not my whole life. Rocky changed that. I watched Rocky. I always kind of mess up exactly when I watch it, but I was like a young teen, 13, 14, something like that. I watched Rocky and I thought it was so weird. I was like, this is the weirdest movie ever. But I don't know, it was inspiring, you know? Like, it was just something about it always stuck with me. And it got me interested in boxing, and the town where I live had a boxing gym. I think at the time it only had one, now there's a couple. And I took a class. And it was super hard. I was not good at it. I was not in very good shape. Like, there were just lots of reasons why it would have made sense to quit, like I always do, like I always did. But I didn't, you know, I stuck with it. I got increasingly better. I got in really good shape. It just changed. It was this big fundamental shift in the way I approach things. And I would say ever since then, quitter is definitely not part of my personality. Like, I finish things, I published books, I've done a fight, I've done various things that I would have probably never done if I hadn't like tapped into that sort of like, even when you are the underdog, even when you're probably gonna lose, even when you look foolish, there is something very transformative about not quitting. So that's why I love Sylvester Stallone and Rocky. He wrote Rocky, for those who don't know. He wrote the screenplay.
And I just think it's so interesting how different things can inspire different people, you know, and
yeah,
you just never know who you're inspiring.
yeah, and you know, I'm probably not like the target audience. Like, you know, I think a lot of people have been inspired by Rocky over its cinematic lifetime. And I don't know, for me, yeah, it's always just been like if I could write stories like that, with that memorable of characters, with that powerful of a transformation, I feel good about it.
And so now your second story has nothing to do with
yes. So first story is like gritty MMA, still very inspirational. Like, I know I've mentioned domestic violence, mixed martial arts. It's, you know, a intense read, but very inspirational and uplifting. My second book is different, very different. It is called Pretty Little Pieces, and the premise of Pretty Little Pieces is the next Joanna Gaines is on the rise. In my book, her name is Georgina. So there's this gal named Georgina. She's perfect. She's aesthetically perfect. You know, she's organized. She's very ambitious. She's a go-getter, big goals. She and her boyfriend are going to have this show, very HGTV style television show. And things are looking very exciting. And he breaks up with her and messes up everything. You know, the plan is ruined, and they end up having to compete for a show on their network. And in that process, she goes to renovate this cottage out in rural Tennessee. They live in Nashville, so she picks this little podunk town in made-up town in Tennessee, Tarragon, Tennessee, and renovates a cottage. And through that, she meets somebody else who's like the complete opposite of her. Not cosmopolitan. He's a country guy, an ex-sniper. That was a big selling point. People really liked the love interest ex-sniper, who has a lot of his own issues, but these two kind of find themselves like just on this sort of completely unexpected place of neither one of them was really looking for love, and they're both trying to rebuild their lives. It's pretty hard to see how they could do that together, and so the book kind of explores how that could happen, or if it won't happen, or, you know, it's a pretty modern love story.
Okay, so how do you know, what draws you to a storyline, like your, like domestic violence or,
Sure,
you know,
different
HGTV,
things.
yeah.
Well, how I usually start with something is I pick something that inspires me and that I enjoy, and then I try to reimagine it. So with After She Falls, it was Rocky. It was, what is recognizable? What do a lot of people know? They know Rocky, they understand that. So how do I take that and, like, for lack of a better word, like Carmenize it, make it like my thing? And then similarly, I've always loved HGTV. I'm definitely not like that type of person. I don't have like perfect everything, but I like watching those shows and seeing the transformation. So again, kind of taking that and making it very new, I guess. You know, we all sort of know Rocky and we know HGTV. So what I try to do is take those things and then how do I kind of surprise the reader? Mm-hmm. Something they enjoy but surprise them. And so my new concept involves the Cuban mafia, because I'm Cuban. I have lots of personal experience, not with the mafia, but with the history and everything. And so taking that and thinking now, like, how will we make a new story that around something that a lot of people are familiar with?
Yeah, and it's so interesting to me, you know, that I do not have any sort of gift like that. And so, like, my brain goes to when you mentioned Tarragon, Tennessee. How long did it take you to come up with that? Like, I'd have been like, okay, I need a name. I need a name for a town. Yeah. And it would take me forever.
You know, it does take a little bit. Usually, I start with like it's almost kind of like just a vibe, you know, to throw out like an aesthetic, I guess. And so that particular book with the Tarragon, Tennessee, there's a lot of cooking, it's Southern, it's, you know, there were just some little elements that I knew. And so I was thinking like, okay, what should we call this town? It should be something related to food, not too on the nose, you know. Tarragon is an herb, so that's like lightly, you know, kind of getting that across. With Sparta, that's a little more on the nose, but there are tons of towns across the country called Sparta, so it worked. You know, it wasn't like ridiculous that there would be this town called Sparta, and I just took the opportunity and I was like, I'm doing it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what was your process or your experience like to become published?
Yeah, it's a good question. Long, arduous journey. No, actually mine was relatively easy compared to a lot of people, as I've heard, like looking back, very thankful for how it played out. So I started writing after She Falls when I was pregnant with my first child. I had been working at the university, at our local university. I was an instructor and, was getting ready to have a baby, so I was done. Just essentially waiting for that to happen. With your first, you're just waiting around. And I had started rereading Francine Rivers' books, and she was one of my favorites growing up. And I reread whatever the most recent one was, and it just kind of occurred to me then, I was like, I think I could do this. And backstory is, I studied English in college. I went to graduate school for creative writing. I didn't have like this plan. I just sort of did that because it was what I was good at, and I wanted to get my degree and be done and all of that. But I read this Francine Rivers novel and I was like, I think I could do this. So that was the beginning. Then I had to write the actual thing. I reread a lot of books to learn how to do that. I'm a big proponent of crack open your favorite book and essentially write out every single plot point. And that's a really difficult but easy way to learn how to tell a story is here's everything that happens. So figured that out. And then I went to a writing conference in Kansas, little tiny writing conference. I'm from Kansas.
I was just saying, that's
yes,
where you're from.
I live in Manhattan, Kansas. And I went to this little conference with a pitch. My pitch was a modern retelling of the classic Rocky story. That was my pitch, with a female protagonist. And met with an agent who was also from Kansas. And we both instantly really liked each other. We're both very underdog-ish. I was like a new mom. She had like a small agency, and we just kind of clicked. And the manuscript wasn't quite done, but she was like, send it to me when it's done. And I did. And the thing people should know about publishing is it's a lot of waiting. You just wait and wait and wait. So sent it to her, other agents as well, eventually signed with her. And then she pitched it to all of the major houses, general market houses and Christian fiction houses. And then that was a lot of waiting. And then we eventually signed with Bethany House. And that was a 2-book deal. After She Falls was done, ready to go, Pretty Little Pieces was not yet in my mind. So that was a little bit scary. My agent had told me that could happen and I should have listened. I just didn't. I think part of it was I wanted to, until it really happens with your first book, at least for me, it was hard to invest all the energy and creativity into a second book. I was waiting to see what will happen with this one. And I also had by that time I had 2 little babies. I had a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and I was pregnant when I signed that 2-book deal. And I didn't know I was pregnant, so that was exciting. I signed it and then I found out. So me and the publisher were like, it's gonna be a busy couple years. You're gonna be tired. And I was, but got through it.
Well, I so greatly appreciate you being on the show with us. And, I think it's always fun to learn of new authors and new to me authors.
Right. No, I'm still very new, so I'm new to everybody.
Yeah, and it is hard, when I do a lot on my app of looking for books, and it's always hard. I'm like, I don't know, I've never heard of this person, and yes. So I think I just love this opportunity to introduce people to all these authors. And
thank you so much. I totally get it. As a reader, you have so much to pick from. You have so many books to pick from. I get it. And so I guess since I have 2 books, I'm not technically debut. I still feel very debut. And so as a debut author, I really appreciate the opportunity to just share about what I like to write about, what's out there. If you like contemporary romance with a blend of women's fiction and kind of just inspiration, but very real to life. I try to write for the modern woman who wants to be entertained, but also wants more at the same time. So, appreciate it.
Well, it's been a pleasure to visit with you and to meet you and get to know you. So
same.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Raina. Yep.